Alright, let's see. Let's see. Poeticize your presence. This is a quote by Soren Kierkegaard. He who does not know how to poeticize himself into a girl so that it is from her that everything proceeds as he wants it, he is and remains a bungler. To poeticize oneself into a girl is an art. Okay. In a world that is harsh and full of disappointments, it is a great pleasure to be able to fantasize about a person you are involved with. This makes the seducer's task easy. People are dying to be given a chance to fantasize about you. Do not spoil this golden opportunity by overexposing yourself or becoming so familiar and banal that the target sees you as exactly as you are. You don't have to be an angel or a paragon of virtue. That would be quite boring. You can be dangerous, naughty, even somewhat vulgar, depending on the tastes of your victim. Daily law, never be ordinary or limited. In poetry, as opposed to reality, anything is possible. That's from The Art of Seduction. Poeticize your presence. And that is the last one for July. Today's the 31st. And tomorrow is August 1st, the Master Persuader. I wonder if he's going to be sourcing everything from Mastery. No, because August 1st is still from The Art of Seduction. Master Persuader, softening people's resistance. Okay, I see some stuff from the Laws of Human Nature. 48 Laws of Power, The Art of Seduction. Okay, this is going to be a little different. August. Alright, we'll see how August goes. But until then, we shall poeticize our presence. Alright, let's get a little bit of coffee going. Today's Friday. Darn it, I had a dream. What was it? I wanted to talk about it. I actually had dreams all night again. But I woke up from one that I kind of remembered, and now it is gone. Darn it. That is some tasty coffee. Yeah. I guess that's a lot how most relationships reach that. Like a rut. You know what a rut is? A rut is like an indentation that's left by a well-worn path. Like a long time ago when they were maybe crossing America, coming to the West Coast to push them over here, the covered wagon days. Everybody would take the same path, and that would cause a large indentation in the earth from where all the wagon wheels have traveled. And that's because that trail had become so familiar that everybody was taking the same kind of easy path. Well, that same kind of situation can happen, I guess, in a relationship dynamic where things become so common, like the trail was so common, that the relationship itself, I guess, could fall into a rut. And I guess when that happens, sometimes it can ruin a relationship because people could become bored with each other, or I guess they start to, what's the how would you say that? You take what you have for granted. And that's normally when people's eyes start to wander and you start looking in other different areas and different things start to catch your eye. That's what gets you in trouble. There's a lot of people out at this time of day for the morning. A couple of younger fellows back there having a conversation, and some other dude back here smoking a cigarette on the phone. You don't see that very often in terms of activity. I guess it's easier going back to that page I just read. It's easier to play some of these angles when you haven't been with somebody for a very long time. Like when you're in the hunt, right? Because that's why all this comes from the book of The Art of Seduction. Because a lot of what goes into seducing somebody has to do with the fact that they're still like they don't know you so well. Like it makes me think of like me and my woman. Like we've been together for so long. Like it's like she knows me so well, which I kind of like. Not kind of, but I very much appreciate that she knows me so well. For me, it feels relaxing. Just like takes like the anxiety out of it. But a lot of what the anxiety brings in the position of someone who's trying to like pursue a target. That's what gives you like your edge. Kind of keeps you on your toes. Which to a degree could be a good thing. Because it keeps you like it keeps you trying, right? It keeps you in that mindset of the hunter. I don't know what this dude is doing. See, this is the lane I need to be in, and I got behind this truck. And then he put on his left blinker like he was going to get over. And then he veered slightly towards the right. And then he turned his blinker back off, and now he's just chilling. I don't think he knows exactly where he is. This is like a long hauler. Maybe, but maybe it's not a route he's familiar with. So he doesn't know exactly which lane to stay in. That happens. But anyways, getting back to that. Like, not to say that like a well-established long-term relationship goes stale. I don't believe that to be the case when it comes to the situation I'm in with my woman. I think what keeps our relationship so fresh is the fact that we're very much different. We're very much the same in some regards, but still very different in others. And I think that's what keeps me on my toes with her. I think the only thing that has like, I don't want to say killed the freshness of the relationship, but more personally for me, what like has kind of diminished my, like, I guess seducer's mentality is the amount of energy I have to put into like the routine of the day. Because like I'm leaving so early in the day. Right, I'm up at like 2:30, so I can leave at 3, so I can get to work by 3:30, and that gives me about a half an hour to like settle myself and drink my coffee, and then I start at 4. And then I'm there till 2:30, and then it takes about another half hour to get home. By the time I get home, I'm so tired. I'm just tired. And then plus I'm a little older now, so that can have something to do with it too. You know, I hear a lot of stuff about testosterone levels, and I'm always hearing about that being an issue too for guys my age and a little older. I'm just so tired by the time I get home, and I hope she doesn't think that like I've lost any kind of a drive towards wanting to seduce her. I guess that's how I put it. It's just that I'm so tired. And that makes me wonder, like, in other people's relationships, is that like what makes people think that, like, maybe he doesn't want me anymore, or stuff like that? Which kind of sucks, because maybe that's not the case. That's just how maybe people take it like that sometimes. I don't know. I just know for me, it's just so much of my energy has to go into like the day and the time that I'm away from my woman. And by the time I'm back with her, I'm just so tired. All I want to do is relax. And back in the day, this is where pot came into play. You know, I could come home, indulge in that a little bit, and then that would completely, like, not only relax me, but like move my mind in a way that it was just an easy shortcut, I guess. Like a little magic trick. Oh, speaking of a magic trick, I heard the most interesting thing yesterday that I had to look up. So in numerology, every number is assigned like a character archetype, starting at 1, maybe even at 0. But anyway, moving up the numbers, I don't know how high it goes, but I found out the number 9 is assigned the archetype of the student. Number 10 is assigned the archetype of the teacher. And number 11 is assigned the archetype of the magician. From what I looked up, this progression, maybe starting at 0, or I don't know if it starts at 1, but this progression from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, moving all the way up, also corresponds with the levels of human development. And you're supposed to go in order. And you're supposed to progress through each one, moving through each archetype, and developing your character corresponding to what that archetype entails. So going back to the number 9, the student. The role of the student is the learner, right? The student learns and accumulates information, or what could be known as knowledge, right? They're taking in information and learning things. And as that progresses into the role of the teacher, the characteristic of a teacher is wisdom, right? A teacher at one time was a student who accumulated knowledge, and now as a teacher, he has wisdom, who's taken that knowledge and through the application of experience has acquired wisdom. So as a teacher progresses with the wisdom he's earned, that progresses into the role of the magician. And what a magician can do is perform magic. And what magic is knowledge combined with wisdom and applied through action. The outcome is magic. For example, like this car I'm driving right now, all forms of technology is knowledge and wisdom put into motion with action. You know, this phone I'm recording this on, that was somebody's intelligence wisely applied. The outcome is some sort of magical creation, let's just say. Now, when that progression is done properly and in order, the outcome is supposed to be positive. But if you skip one of those steps, for instance, if you go from the role of a student, you acquire knowledge, but haven't earned the wisdom on how to apply it correctly, the magic you create, you go from 9 to 11, from student to magician, the magic you create will be chaotic. Because you don't have the wisdom on how to apply it correctly. So the result will be chaotic and disordered magic. They were trying to say that, whatever I was listening to, I forget what podcast it was. Actually, I think it was Tinfoil Hat. They were saying that's the reason that the events of 9/11 happened on 9/11. That wasn't an accident, that was on purpose. Because what 9/11 did to a lot of people was, quote unquote, it red pilled a lot of people. That's what opened a lot of people's eyes to certain information, right? So it gave a lot of students, the number 9, a lot of knowledge and information. So going back to the 9/11 dynamic, from 9 to 11, without the wisdom that the student has applied, the magic or the actions that they're going to take are going to be negative and chaotic. So that's why you have a lot of like the a lot of the like people that want to like bring down the government, or like all these protests and all this craziness that we're seeing now, all the conflict, is a result of going from 9 to 11 without the wisdom of the 10. And that was done on purpose to manipulate society into a position where we can be easily swayed into conflict culture. I thought that was very interesting. And that all started with like a quick rundown on how numerology works and the archetype of like, I don't know if this has anything to do with like tarot card kind of stuff, because all those cards have like different archetypes applied to them. But I've seen people like do kind of tarot reading with a deck of cards, just regular playing cards, using those numbers and those archetypes applied to them. So when I heard this, I was like, "Ooh, that's interesting. That's an interesting thought." I'm not saying it's 100% true and accurate, but that's a hell of an interesting thought when you apply it to the idea of what 9/11 did. Now you have a lot of people out there that seem to be awake, but how they're behaving isn't very wise, right? They go around spreading a lot of black pills, right? Talking about how the government, did 9/11 and they're not to be trusted, and the elites and all that stuff. That's all black pill shit. Because now what you're doing is you're sowing distrust and you're sowing negativity. That's negative energy you're putting out. And negative energy doesn't benefit anybody, except for those who would want to influence people who are already, exposed and affected by the negativity. It's easy to sway people that are in that kind of mental position. And that's the effect of going from student to magician without the wisdom of the teacher. I thought that was super interesting. This was telling my girlfriend that. She's like, "Well, what do we do with this information?" She's kind of like, "What am I supposed to do with that?" And I kind of thought about it for a little bit. I was like, "That's a great question. Like, okay, now that we know that, what do we do with that?" The only thing I could think of is like, well, now that you know that, your role now becomes the antidote to the black pill. The black pill that everybody seems to have swallowed, and the conflict culture that arose from it. Well, now your role is to counterbalance that with the white pill. Start giving people hope, and spreading the positive aspect of what happens when you become aware. And this goes back to an idea that's been floating around in my head since the term woke has become very popular. I always thought it was curious, how that term has been applied. He's woke. Because it's not a logical use of that word, because they're using it to mean awake. But the term woke is past tense, being used in the present tense, and that's it's a corruption of the use of that word. It's like a false awakening, how that term is used. So it's like these people who think they're awake are not. It's a false awakening. And that results in the black pill. So the only counter to that is it's equal opposites, and now you have to spread light and hope. But yeah, all that was pretty interesting to hear. Also, I like all my tinfoil hat shit. You come across some stuff that's very interesting. And even if, like, there's people that are like, yeah, well, I don't believe in that stuff. That's fine. You don't have to believe in it. But it's important to know that there's some very interestingly powerful people out there that do believe in it. And those people are out there making moves, for all you know, that could be affecting your whole life. That could be affecting geopolitical events, and social events, economic events, which ultimately affects you. So it doesn't really matter if you believe in it. There's people out there that do. And that's what's important to understand. It's like people who are like, I don't believe in the Bible. People will say that. That's fine. You don't have to believe in the Bible, but you better believe that there's people that do. And these people are out there making moves that affect you. And this whole conflict over there in Israel, most of this is intertwined with biblical belief. So whether or not you believe in the Bible, there's a war being fought that's highly affected by biblical scripture. So good luck with not believing in it. Because if this ends up in like a huge conflict that goes as far as like a nuke being lit off, you better start believing that some of this stuff is real. Because its effects could be far more profound than you were ready to understand. So that's why I think it's not important, but it's useful to know what darkness is into. So that's why I kind of like, I don't want to say I got into the occult, but I started to taking information that would be considered, occult teaching and, esoteric kind of learned information. Because that kind of opened my eyes into like, okay, I see how these people operate and the position that they operate from. And that kind of like even, I want to say, how do I word this? It's like what I want to say almost sounds super blasphemous, but like what I take away from the Bible is strictly what was taught, or at least what was recorded and exemplified by who Jesus was. Almost a lot of the rest of it I want to cast to the side. Only because the reason I say that is I see how information is used today and how manipulated and artificial a lot of it can be, especially because how it affects people and how it results in their thinking and acting. So if you apply that to ancient information, like the Bible, there's a nagging thought in my mind that corresponds with the fact that the Bible itself could have been nothing more than ancient propaganda. And that's a possibility. And that's the part that sounds blasphemous, I guess. But that's why I stick to just what Jesus said and did, and I try to leave it at that. Because how do I know what else? Because that's what makes me hesitant, is how much was left out of the Bible. That book was edited down to what we know it today, and a lot of books were just cast aside and deemed irrelevant. But then my mind says, okay, deemed irrelevant by who and for what reason? Who were you to say what should and shouldn't have been in there? And what were your motives for doing that? How do I know you can be trusted? So that's why I kind of say that. It's like, well, if that's the case, and those are the questions, those are logical questions to ask too. Just because some priest or rabbi or any other biblical scholar, makes a claim of, this is the word of God. Well, a lot of words then were left out. The question becomes why, and who. It's just there's too many question marks. Like that has to be the case. Then I narrow it down strictly to Jesus and Jesus only. That's how I see it. It has to be the guiding. And the reason I say that about Jesus is because, ultimately he was killed. Right? He wasn't like they didn't cheerlead him on in that book. He was demonized and persecuted and ultimately killed. Which tends to be the case with a lot of people who lean into the conspiracy tinfoil side of things. We're kind of made fun of, and we're not put on a pedestal. We're criticized a lot. Jesus was criticized a lot. Like, okay, it's Jesus and Jesus only. I guess that's the way to go. I'm going to go against the grain. If I get crucified for it, so be it. I'm in good company. And I just leave it at that. But yeah, all those thoughts came just based on what I heard about 9, 10, and 11. The student, the teacher, and the magician. Boop. All right. I am alive. Okay. Boop. Let's go to work.